podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
The Two-Footed Podcast is brought to you by EPLindex.com and our presenting sponsor, Liberty Shield. Liberty Shield is a VPN provider. A virtual privacy network allows you to go online, change your location, access things you're geo-blocked from, while keeping your data safe. So, as an example, if you are a UK expat and want access to BBC iPlayer to watch Match of the Day, or ITV Hub, or all four, but you get that message that says this content is not available in your location, a Liberty Shield VPN gets you around that block, allows you to watch whatever you want on those services while also keeping your data safe. And it goes further than that. It allows you to open up Netflix's entire library by just changing your IP address. Liberty Shield is the #1 rated VPN provider on Trustpilot with 5-star ratings across the board. So go to libertyshield.com right now, use the code EPL25 and get either the hardware package or the software package. The hardware package is a router that you plug into your existing router, and any item you want to change the IP address on, be it your phone or your television, you connect that to the new Liberty Shield router. All other items can remain connected to your existing router. There's also a software package which is instantly downloadable to your device and you can get using straight away. Again, libertyshield.com, EPL25 for 25% off at checkout. We're also brought to you by Home of Hopcroft, a giftware and homeware company located in Scotland but shipping worldwide. Check out homeofhopcroft.co.uk and do check out the EPL Index and Anfield Index shops, which you'll find on Etsy. Use the codes EPL10 or RED10 for 10% off at checkout. And lastly, do remember to check out A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. That podcast is on this feed before every Premier League match week. And then the EPL Roundtable, hosted by Kevin DeVries, on its own EPL Roundtable feed. So just search EPL Roundtable in your podcast device. And that's out after every match week. Now, on with the show. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Wednesday. It is the 10th of April, and we had lots of action last night. So let's start off in the Champions League, where we had two really exciting games. At the Emirates, Arsenal 2, Bayern Munich 2. Arsenal go 1-up through Bukayo Saka on 12 minutes. A nice finish, but was I alone in thinking Eric Dyer could have done more to close him down? On 18 minutes, Serge Gnabry equalises. Panic in the Arsenal defence as the team actually attacks them and goes right through the middle of them. Good ball through, Gnabry with a nice finish. On 32 minutes, Leroy Sané just ran at the Arsenal defence as well. Gets himself into the box, dances past a couple of players. William Saliba brings him down. Stonewall penalty, up steps Harry Kane, and he makes no mistake. It is 2-1 Bayern. Leandro Trossard will equalise on 76 minutes. It's a really, really well-worked goal by the Gunners. Much credit to them. Lovely goal, lovely finish by Trossard. And to be fair, no less than Arsenal deserved. They did deserve to be level. Now, there is some controversy coming out of this game. Bukayo Saka was sent through in stoppage time, knocked the ball past the goalkeeper, and then collided with Manuel Neuer. Arsenal fans are up in arms, claiming it should be a penalty. I don't agree. Saka initiates the contact. He's in complete control. He could go round Neuer and tap into an empty net. Instead, he launches himself at Neuer, kicks his leg out, initiates the contact. Now, Neuer does have his leg hung out. There's no question. But Saka could easily have avoided it, in my opinion. I don't think it's a penalty. I think the referee made the right call. I think the standard of refereeing last night showed how far the Premier League has to go. But at the same time, I'm not sure this referee should be refereeing Champions League games, because Bayern had the most obvious stonewall penalty you'll ever see not given. David Raya has the ball, about to take a goal kick. The whistle blows. That means the ball is live. As soon as he touches it with his foot, the ball is live. He passes it sidewards to Gabriel along the 6-yard box. That is him taking the goal kick. And Gabriel picks the ball up and then proceeds to take a goal kick himself, rolling it back to Raya. But the ball was live, and Raya has not kicked it to Gabriel to take the goal kick. If he'd picked it up and chucked it to him, yeah, that would be him giving it to Gabriel. But he plays the pass and Gabriel handles it. And it should have been a penalty. And the referee's explanation was that it was a schoolboy error and he wasn't going to give a penalty for that in a Champions League quarter-final. I'm sorry, but that's unacceptable. That is a stonewall penalty. Arsenal have gotten away with one. That's a bad outcome for Arsenal last night. This is the worst Bayern Munich team since Dortmund were winning the title under Jurgen Klopp. They haven't lost more than 5 league games in a season since then. They've lost 6 already this season. Both of those seasons, I believe, they lost 7. I think they also lost 7 the year Wolfsburg won the title. And I would be fairly certain you'd have to go back a couple of years before that to find a season where they'd lost more than 7 in the league. 6 already this year. In all likelihood, they'll lose another. This is just a really poor Bayern team. Arsenal are a better team than them. We're at home. And I think ideally would have had this tie put to bed last night, been able to go full strength against Villa at the weekend and then go to Munich able to rest a couple of players. Instead, they may have to rest those players against Villa. If they don't rest them against Villa, they'll have to go full strength there, full strength against Bayern away, and then they've got Wolves away, which is a tough enough game, followed very closely by Chelsea. I think last night is a missed opportunity for Arsenal to give themselves a little bit of breathing room in that Bayern second leg and be able to just give players a bit of a break. Now, I know they don't have many injuries or any injuries to deal with. They've been very, very fortunate this season. Thomas Partey's had an injury. He wouldn't be in the team anyway. He shouldn't be playing football either way. And Jurrien Timber's had the injury all year. But again, would he be in their team? Who's he replacing? Who's he replacing? Maybe Zinchenko, because we do know that this manager likes to play with 4 centre-backs. But it still seems unlikely to me that he'd be starting. Maybe Ben White. I mean, you wouldn't be losing anything. As good as White has been this season, Timber can do what White does. But I don't think he'd be starting. I think he was bought for depth. So Arsenal have been really fortunate this year with injuries. They're fortunate at the moment. But these are a lot of high-pressure games now, coming thick and fast, and this team is yet to show that they can deal with that. And what we have seen from Arsenal in this competition, in the knockout phases, is a naivety. And we've seen opposition managers get the better of Mikel Arteta. Sergio Conceição coached rings around him. And I thought last night Tuchel did as well. In the other game last night, this was a belter at the Bernabeu. Real Madrid 3, Manchester City 3. Bernardo Silva put City 1 up on 2 minutes. There's a Eduardo Camavinga shot that hits Ruben Diaz and deflects in on 12 minutes. I think it's officially been given as an own goal, so maybe the Camavinga shot was going wide. Rodrigo put Real 2-1 up just 2 minutes later, broke in down the left, City missing Kyle Walker and his recovery pace. And it's a gorgeous little roll finish to beat the goalkeeper. I think everybody was expecting a more powerful shot, but he's just rolled it past them all into the back of the net. It stayed 2-1 till half time, but Phil Foden with a worldie on 66. Josko Gvardiol with a really nice goal on 71, put City 3-2 up. But Real are Real when it comes to the Champions League, and you can never write them off. And Federico Valverde scored an absolute stunning volley on 79 to give them a share of the spoils. City, in a normal year, when we had away goals, I think would have been thrilled with last night. But because there's no away goals anymore, really counts for nothing. The second leg starts 0-0. Same thing with Bayern, obviously. The second leg now starts 0-0, whereas they would have had the advantage of the away goal. And I've seen some people say, oh, well, it's because away goals don't count anymore that we got two exciting games. I just don't buy that at all. I just don't think that's true. I think we just saw two good games between evenly matched teams. Now, Arsenal evenly matched at Bayern because Arsenal didn't perform to the level that they normally perform at. Real and City, I do think, are evenly matched. City have come back a little bit from where they were last year, and Real are better than they were last year. Interesting, the KDB didn't come off the bench. Apparently sick, I'm not sure. But for Real, I mean, they're starting Tchouaméni at centre-back because of injuries. Now, Militao could have started there, but I think he wanted to get the four midfielders on the pitch, Camavinga, Cruz, Bellingham and Valverde, and the best way to do that was to get Tchouaméni at centre-side, the five midfielders. The best way to do that was to get Tchouaméni at centre-back. He played well, to be fair to him. Looking forward to the second leg of that one. Looking forward to the second leg of the Arsenal one. Obviously, Alphonso Davies picked up an early yellow card yesterday. He will now miss the second leg. But both of them really well balanced heading in to next week's second leg. Those games will be played Wednesday of next week. Tonight, we have PSG running away with Ligue 1, as always, and Barcelona, who I don't think have had a terrible season. I see people talking about how, Xavi's been exposed and all this nonsense. They won the league last year way ahead of schedule. And I think, unfortunately for Xavi, it set expectations on him and on the team at an unfair level. Like, when you look at Barcelona and you look at the situation around the club, the finances, and the makeup of the squad, ideally what they should be doing is not worrying about winning league titles or Champions League. Just worry about being in the Champions League every year. That's what you need to do. If you finish second, third, or fourth, that's job done. If you're 5 points behind Real or 15 or 25, it doesn't matter. As long as you're in the top four and qualifying for the Champions League, so you can bring in that revenue and do that for 3 to 4 years while not spending significant amounts of money, while not going out and giving enormous contracts to players in their 30s, while not trying to win now, while building for the future, while not overplaying young players like Pedri and Gavi and Lamine Yamal and Alejandro Balde. Don't overplay these players. Bring them along slowly, develop them, and build your team so that when your finances are back in a position that the club is on a healthy footing, then you have this incredible group: Koundé, Arejo, Kubarsi, and Balde. That could be a sensational defence. Gavi and Pedri as 2/3 of your midfield. Lamine Yamal, Ansu Fati as 2/3 of your attack. And then you're looking for goalkeeper, defensive midfielder, and striker. And then, because your finances are in a healthy position, you could go and buy the best in the world in those positions because you're Barcelona and you'll have that pull. But in the meantime, what you should be doing is patching those positions up. Now, not with Dross like Romeo. And in goal, you have a great goalkeeper for now anyway, in Ter Stegen. But you didn't need to go and buy Lewandowski. You didn't need to go and get Gundogan. You should be selling Rafinha. You should be selling Frankie de Jong. And you should be focusing on any spending on young players who complement Pedri, Gavi, etc., who are the same age as them. Players like Lamine Camara. I mean, it would be a big money signing, but someone like an Archie Gray, and develop him as your six and bring them along together slowly. But don't have them starting every single game. You bring in cheaper players, affordable players to pad out the squad. You're Barcelona. Players will want to go there. And players will go there for slightly less money than they've been offered elsewhere. But also, stop paying players silly wages at really young ages. Implement a proper wage structure. Because if you're giving a lad 250 grand a week at 21 years of age, by the time he's 25, he'll be on 2 contracts later and probably demanding 400 grand, 450. By the time he's 27, he's going to be asking for 500 or 600 grand. And you're going to be back in the same position again with an unsustainable wage bill, which is how you got here in the first place. But like I said, I don't think they're nearly as bad as people have made out. However, I do expect PSG to win tonight at home. I think PSG will beat them over the 2 legs and go through. In the other one, we have Atletico Madrid, currently 4th. Mixed form, I think it's fair to say. Not a vintage Diego Simeone team by any stretch. But given how the draw has broken, I think Simeone is going to be looking at this and thinking, there's a real path to winning this. Because I think they'll beat Dortmund, who are also in having a mixed season. I mean, they're 5th at the moment. They got beaten at the weekend by Stuttgart. They just don't look quite right. Even though they'd won 4 in a row before that, they just don't look quite right this year. There's a lot of talk about what the future is going to hold for them in terms of the sporting director, in terms of the president of the club, in terms of the manager, and in terms of a number of players there. So I think Atleti will beat Dortmund tonight at the Metropolitano. I think they'll beat them over 2 legs. And I think they'll look at PSG and think, we can beat them. We can beat them. And if we beat them, we're in the final. And if we get to the final, I think most likely is that the winner of Real and City will be waiting for them. And I think they'd look at City and think, we can stop them. We can just shithouse our way to extra time and we'll take our chances. There's probably some scars from finals against Real. But again, I think they'll look at it and think, we can stop them. They don't have a 9. We can stop them. There's no Benzema. There's no Cristiano now. There's no late goals from Sergio Ramos. We can do this. Again, it would be a big surprise if Atleti won the European Cup this year, because this is far from one of the best teams that Simeone has had there. But you never know. Like, Liverpool were not a good team in 2005 when they won it under Benitez. We've seen other teams, Chelsea, when they won it under Roberto Di Matteo, were not a good team. They weren't a good team when they won it under Thomas Tuchel. But they shithoused their way there. And I think Atleti will be looking at that and thinking, why not us this year? Inter got to a final last year and really could have won the thing. Made it very, very tough for City. So we'll see. The games last night, I think, were more fun than the games tonight. So I do think PSG Barca has the potential to be a really enjoyable game. Atleti will want to win, 1-0 and just really, really suck the life out of Dortmund and then go and do the same thing in Dortmund next week. But I'm going to go PSG and Atleti to win tonight. We had madness in the championship last night as well. So, Sheffield Wednesday 2, Norwich 2. I think Norwich will view that as 2 points dropped. Preston 4, Huddersfield 1. Big shock as Millwall beat Leicester 1-0. Now, Millwall, there's just no explaining them. So, they lose this one. So, they win this one. In their previous 2 games, they'd lost to Huddersfield, who were in the bottom 3 at the time, and Rotherham, who are already relegated. So then they turn around and they beat Leicester City, who are top going into this game. Not a disaster for Leicester, though, because Leeds 0, Sunderland 0. Disappointment for Leeds. Only 1 shot on target in the 90 minutes. Very, very poor. And Southampton 2, Coventry 1. So Saints not gaining any ground. Not like they're going to break into that top 3, but there's always a possibility. But a good win for Southampton over Coventry. Kyle Walker-Peters with the opening goal in that one. Plymouth 1, QPR 1, the final game from last night. Tonight, we've got Bristol City against Blackburn, Birmingham against Cardiff, Ipswich against Watford, and now a real opportunity for Ipswich to go back to the top of the table, though Leicester would still have the game in hand. Hull against Middlesbrough, which should be a fun one. Swansea against Stoke, which is unlikely to be fun. And West Brom against Rotherham is the 8 p.m. Oh, sorry, Swansea, Stoke, and West Brom, Rotherham. They're both 8 p.m. kickoffs. They're the games I'm least likely to pay any attention to. I think Hull, Middlesbrough, and Ipswich Watford are the 2 for me tonight. So I'll be flicking between those on one screen and having the 2 Champions League games flicking on the other one. Watford aren't good, by the way, just to be clear, but they've got a couple of really interesting players there that I want to keep an eye on. But Hull and Borough, they've got really interesting players that I think are worth watching. And Ipswich under Kieran McKenna are a really good watch. A really, really good watch. So that's that. Let's check in on League One. Last night we had Cheltenham 0, Carlisle 1. That's a disastrous result for Cheltenham. Carlisle are awful and are relegated. And Cheltenham, that was one of their games in hand, which would have lifted them out of the bottom 4 and potentially helped them get safety. Stevenage 2, Barnsley 1. That's a huge result for Stevenage. Keeps them very close now to the playoff spots, 3 points behind Oxford, but they have played a game more. So they are reliant on somebody slipping up. Disappointing result for Barnsley, obviously, as a likely playoff team, but their form has been poor over the last couple of weeks. Blackpool 1, Fleetwood 0. Charlton 2, Wigan 2. Bristol Rovers 0, Reading 2. And Leyton Orient 2, Exeter City 2. Today we have Peterborough against Port Vale and Wickham against Derby County. And then in League 2, Mansfield 1, Forest Green 0. Doncaster 2, Walsall 1. Morecambe 0, Crewe 1. Newport County 1. Accrington Stanley 3. I only learned yesterday that Hugh Jenkins, who was the longtime owner of Swansea, or longtime majority owner, I don't know if he ever owned the whole thing, but longtime majority owner and chairman of Swansea, is now the owner of Newport County. I was unaware of that, but yeah. Harrogate 1, Grimsby 0, and Wrexham 4, Crawley 1, 2 for Paul Mullins in that one. Wrexham taking sole ownership of second place, but Mansfield do have a game in hand. Mansfield go above MK Dons and have a game in hand on them as well. 3 teams to be automatically promoted. Right now, Stockport are a certainty. Wrexham look a very good bet, 4 wins out of 5. Mansfield, their form is mixed, but I'd still back them given they have the game in hand and a 2-point lead on MK Dons. That's a really impressive win for Wrexham because Crawley are no scrubs. They're currently 7th in the division, so they're a playoff team as things stand. Likely to finish, I think, in the playoffs as well, given that they're 3 points clear of AFC Wimbledon and have a game in hand. I would love to see AFC Wimbledon in the playoffs. I would love to see them finish 7th and MK Dons finish 4th because that would be a really interesting playoff battle. And obviously there's untold history there between those two entities. So, yeah, that is where we stand after last night. I'm going to take a break. And when I come back, we're going to have a look at some awards for this season. See you after this. Right, welcome back. So, let's have a little chat about some awards. Predominantly the Premier League Player of the Season, but also a little look at the potential race for the Golden Boot. Now, everybody just assumes that Erling Haaland will stroll away with that, but he is only 1 goal clear of Ollie Watkins, 2 clear of Salah, 3 clear of Cole Palmer and Dominic Solanke. Haaland this season has not been anywhere close to what he was last season, and I appreciate he did miss some time through injuries, but he just has not played well this year. And of late, he has been really, really poor. So there was a recent fan survey done. Who do you think will win the Premier League Golden Boot? And Haaland got 63% of the vote. I just feel like that's quite aggressive because Watkins, who's 1 goal behind him and playing much better, got 6% of the vote. That to me is really, really strange. Again, I fully accept having Haaland as the favourite, definitely, but not by this drastic amount. Salah is on 18. Heung-min Son is on 7. Jared Bowen is on 3. Now, Bowen has 15 goals. He's 4 behind Haaland. Isak and Solanke got 2% and 1%. Isak has 15. Solanke has 16. I just feel like people are massively underrating the level of performance we're seeing from Ollie Watkins this year, who, as I said the other day, is in my team of the season because it's got to be about more than just goals. It's got to be about performance level. And when we get to the Player of the Season award, I might lose all sense and reason. But Ollie Watkins this season, 18 goals, playing in an Aston Villa team who, let's be fair, are overperforming, like Newcastle last year. Now, will they get top 4? It remains to be seen, but 5th might be good enough for Champions League regardless. But if they're going to get there, they're going to get there on the goals of Watkins. And I back him to score most weeks. I think he's in that type of groove and has that unique blend of pace and power that defenders just don't like playing against. And he's really awkward to try and defend as well because he can play through the middle or he can drift out wide and hang on a fullback and bully that fullback. He can move into the centre and he can bully any centre-back in the league. because of his combination of size, strength, speed. He's a really unique player. Now, sometimes he can be a little bit wasteful in front of goal, but I just think he's been drastically underrated there in terms of his chance of winning the Golden Boot. Haaland's only one ahead of him. And Watkins is definitely in better form. Now, Premier League Player of the Season. This is what we call some bullshit. Declan Rice, 22%. He's been Arsenal's third best player, behind Odegaard and Saka. Now, I have him in my team of the season, but it's mostly down to which midfielders are and aren't performing. And because I like to have balance to my teams, I went for Alexis and Rice rather than Alexis and Odegaard, which is probably what I would pick if I was just playing on FIFA or something. But I think Alexis and Rice makes more sense in a real football match. Haaland, 21%. What are people watching? Genuinely, what are people watching? Erling Haaland is not playing well this season. And frankly, I think City are better in a lot of games. Not all games, not even most games, but in a lot of games, I think they're better without him. Because I think when Alvarez plays as the 9 and Foden is the 10, and then you go Bernardo and Doku or Grealish in the wide areas, I think you get a lot more movement and speed of thought. I think it causes defenses a lot more problems when they go that way. Now, there are some games when you definitely want Haaland, where you want that battering ram up front. But the idea that he's having even a better season than Watkins is ridiculous. Watkins is 18 and 10. Haaland is 19 and 5. And like when we look at who Haaland has scored against, he got 2 against Burnley, 1 against Sheffield United, 3 against West Ham, 1 against Forest, 2 against Brighton. 1 against Brighton, 2 against United, 2 against Chelsea, 2 against Everton, 1 against Brentford, 1 against United, 1 against Palace. The only good team that he scored against this year is Liverpool. Now, you can argue for West Ham, fair, but I'm just not having him as a contender for Player of the Season. I'd also point out that since December, he scored 5 goals with 2 assists. Since December. And I know he missed 5 league games. But still, he has not been good. He has not been good at all this season. There's more to performance than scoring goals. Ollie Watkins can have games where he doesn't score and he still hugely impacts the game. Erling Haaland cannot. Third is Mo Salah. He's been Liverpool's third best player this year. Haaland, Rodri, and Foden have both massively outplayed him. So the top 3 in this fan survey are the third best players in their respective teams. Rodri comes in 4th with 9%. Bukayo Saka, 9%. Watkins, 9%. Virgil van Dijk, 6%. Are you kidding me? He has been Liverpool's best player this year in a team that has been ravaged with injuries. He's been the one consistent. They're level on points at the top of the league. 6%. Cole Palmer got the same amount of votes. Now, he is having a very good season. His team, however, are 9th. So it's not like he's elevating them well above their station. William Saliba got 4%. He's been the fifth best player at Arsenal, at best. Odegaard, Saka, Rice, Gabriel, all better than him this year. Saliba got 4%. This is incredible, really. And proof that people aren't watching enough football. The fan survey did also cover 3 other questions. Who do you think will win the Premier League, their next Premier League title first? Manchester United or Chelsea? Manchester United got 62% of the votes. I don't know who I think. I would probably lean Chelsea, because despite the turmoil and despite the fact that Todd Bowley might be the dumbest man who currently owns a football club and has a bank balance in the billions, there's just a lot more talent at Chelsea than there is at United. There's a lot less issues to fix at Chelsea than there is at United. Now, you can argue both of them need new managers, okay? But let's park that for a second. They both need better goalkeepers. Petrovic is okay. Onana's been playing okay of late. Not good, though. So both of them need new goalkeepers. Chelsea need one defender. They need a right-footed, right-side centre-back. Or a left-footed, left-side centre-back that you don't tend to find them. A right-footed, right-side centre-back to partner with Levi Colwill. Behind that, you'd have Fofana and Badiashile and Disasi. And that's assuming they sell Chalobah. At left-back, you've got Ben Chilwell. Injuries are an issue, but he's still a good player. I'd be bringing Ian Maatsen back and playing him personally. You've got Cucurella, who I think you can sell for a considerable fee. Not close to what you paid for him, but I still think you'd get 25, 30 million if you were to put him on the market. You've got Reece James and Malo Gusto at right back. So defensively, Chelsea just need one addition. United, Delo and Wan-Bissaka is fine at right back. Shaw at left back, and I would say Martinez as a backup or rotation with him, because they both have injury problems. So if you're rotating them, maybe you can keep them both healthy. But they need all new centre-backs bar Lindelof, who would be your fourth centre-back. So they need 3 players in defence, all of them centre-backs. 2 starters, which will be expensive, and 1 backup. And then Kambuala is the 5th one. Then in midfield, look, the Enzo Caicedo thing doesn't work, is not going to work. The best thing they could do is look to move one of them on. I think Enzo's probably the easier one to move on. I think, for example, PSG would have significant interest in him, given their interest in Bruno Fernandes. I think you could move Enzo on to PSG and go and buy someone like João Neves. And a João Neves-Caicedo pairing, I think, works like a dream. Chelsea have Kobbie Mainoo. Is he ready to play every week? I would say no. I would say you want him as your third central midfielder, which would mean you need to buy 2 starters. A starting defensive midfielder and a starting central midfielder. Mainoo as the backup central midfielder, you would need to buy a backup defensive midfielder, so you need 3 in midfield. Chelsea, behind Caicedo and, let's say, João Neves, would have Lavia, Ogachukwu, and Chukwuemeka. They don't need to do anything else. So just 1, João Neves, job done. So that's 3 players Chelsea need and 7 that United need. Now, in the number 10 position, Chelsea have Nkunku, Gallagher, and Cole Palmer can play there. United have Bruno and Mount. So both teams are fine in that position don't need to do anything there. In the wide areas, United have Garnacho and Rashford, who I think are excellent. Rashford's form obviously not great this season, but still a very good player. You have Amad Diallo, and potentially you keep Anthony. So that's your 4, 2 pacey, 2 more creative finesse players. Gives you good balance. United don't need to do anything there. Chelsea, Palmer and Mudeki on the right, Sterling and Mudryk on the left. Ideally, I think you would look to bring in a winger. But if Raheem Sterling is in form, you're not going to find anybody that's that much better than him. Up front, United have Højlund. They need a backup. Chelsea have a backup in Jackson, but need a starter. So Chelsea need 4 players. Goalkeeper, centre-back, midfielder, striker. United need 8 players. Goalkeeper, 3 centre-backs, 3 in midfield, and a striker. The positive for United is that 3 of those players, they only need squad-level players, players that they can develop, or veterans who are coming in later in their career. Maybe you can find them on good value. But they do need 5 starters. And they are expensive players. And it's the same for Chelsea. Like, you're looking at expensive players. Like, let's say for Chelsea, they were to go and buy... Let's say they buy Mamardashvili from Valencia. Let's say they went with Jean-Claire Todibo from Nice at centre. He's probably more likely to go to United, isn't he? Let's say they go with Todibo. Let's say they can get Todibo. So that's probably 75, 80 million. 80 million, let's call it, between the two. Neves, I think the buyout's around 100 million. And the striker, let's say they buy Luis Openda from Leipzig. So he's about 70. So you're talking about 250 million for the Chelsea 4. And that would get them a team, a squad that I think can challenge under the right manager in a 4-2-3-1. Now, if it changes shape, it changes shape, but that's just a basic outline. Looking at United, goalkeeper, let's say I'm trying to even think who they could go for. I'm struggling, actually. Let's say they go with Diogo Costa because they've been linked with him for years. So let's say they get him 40 million. Centre-backs, right? Let's say they go Antonio Silva and Jared Branthwaite because those are the 2 who've been linked. So let's go with them. That is probably 150 million for the pair. So that's 190 plus your debt. Let's just say they spend another 15 to 20 million. Let's say 20 million on another centre-back. So now you're at 210 million and you're only moving into midfield now. You need a starting defensive midfielder. Let's say they go Morten Hjulmand, 60 million. They need a centre midfielder to complement him. Let's say it's going to be another 50 to 60 million realistically for whoever they want to bring in. I'm just trying to think if they've been linked to anybody of late to play in that midfield. I know they were also linked with João Neves, but I just think he's a better fit for Chelsea. They They were linked with Guimaraes, but I just don't see that one. Frankie de Jong is the name that always pops up. So let's say him, right? There's another 70 million. So now you're talking 130 for the midfield. That's 340. You need one more, a backup defensive midfielder. Let's just buy Morten Frendrup for them. Another 25 there, 365. And then you need a backup striker. You ideally want someone who is going to be a reliable goal threat. I think you want probably a slightly different profile to what Højlund offers. Maybe someone that can also play alongside Højlund. So El Yawahi, maybe. Folarin Balogun. Let's say Balogun. Now, I know he's not had the kind of sparkling season that Monaco were hoping for. What did Monaco pay from, like, high 20s? Got 8 goals. Probably not going to do the job, is it? What about the teams that are going down? Is there anyone there? No. 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 No, there's nobody there. There's no. Let's just say Balogun, just for the sake of it, because he ticks a homegrown box as well. Let's just say you can get him for 35, but you're still talking about a 400 million spend. And they've already spent 400 million on this manager. And the thing is as well there, that's United maxed out. That's basically 2 players for every position, a 5th centre-back, and you throw whoever, Tom Heaton in as goalkeeper. You would be selling, you could sell certain players. You could sell Onana, you could sell Maguire, you let Varane walk on a free, you sell Casemiro for whatever you can get for him. You sell Sancho at a significant loss. You're going to take Martial, leaves in a free. Maybe you can raise back 100 million. But for Chelsea, there's a lot more money to be raised. And for Chelsea, there's other players then that I didn't even mention who fatten out that squad. Like, they'd have, say, they could sell Robert Sanchez. They could sell Cucurella. They can sell Chalobah. They can sell Enzo, obviously. They'd still have Caicedo. They'd have David Washington. They would have David Datro Fofana, Harvey Vale, Andre Santos. Like, Chelsea would just have a lot more depth and options available to them. And there's also more players to sell, like Ziyech, like Broja, like Malang Sarr. I mean, you could sell maybe Axel Disasi and bring Bashir Humphreys back as your 5th centre-back. You've got Tino Angerin to sell. They'll sell Lukaku, they'll lose a fortune, but they'll get some money from Angelo Gabriel's another one that can come back in. So I just think Chelsea, despite the fact that Bowley is a terrible owner, I actually don't think they're all that far away. Now, 4 players and 250 million is a lot, but I think they're a lot closer than United, even though the league table tells us United are a better team. I think there's more potential at Chelsea. And I think they could sell enough players to cover what they need at basically zero cost, whereas United, nowhere close. Nowhere close. And that's not even considering selling Conor Gallagher, who I would keep as the backup / rotation option in the 10 spot, because he offers me something different. So against top teams, I can play him there and then either play Nkunku as a 9 or Nkunku wide and get different uses out of players. I think Chelsea are closer than United. Out of Eric Ten Hag and Mauricio Pochettino, which manager do you think will still be at their club next season? So neither of them, 33%. Both of them, 26%. So for people that picked one or the other, 26% said Pochettino more likely to be at Chelsea. Only 16% picked Ten Hag to be at United. I think it's more likely Ten Hag is at United because I think United have more work to do in terms of their structure. Like, that's the other thing. United have no real football structure yet. They are appointing people. Chelsea have already appointed theirs. They've appointed too many is the issue at Chelsea. And obviously we saw Christian Vival just turn around and go, why is everybody here? What are they all doing? And leave. But I think for the moment, Chelsea's work towards their structure puts them also in a better position than United. So I think Ten Hag is more likely to retain the job for next season, though I would lean towards both of them, honestly. So I do just wonder with Chelsea, I mean, those owners have been there less than 2 seasons. They've already sacked Tuchel. They've already sacked Potter, and that cost them a fortune, absolute fortune to hire him, 20-odd million to get him and his staff. Then they paid him a guaranteed contract, 5 years, 7 or 9 million a year. Like, so he got the lump. He got everything. So you're talking about a 50+ million investment in the Graham Potter experiment. Cost him 12 million or something to sack Tuchel as well. It would cost him a fortune to sack Poch. I just don't think they're going to want to do that. And then there's this one. Which Premier League player goes missing in big games the most? Marcus Rashford, 40%. I'm pretty sure Marcus Rashford has a pretty decent goal-scoring record in big games. Raheem Sterling, 19%. Again, feel like Raheem has done pretty well in big games. And not against Liverpool. I feel like he's done well against United and Arsenal and Chelsea over the years. Bruno Fernandes, 11%. I think that's fair. Haaland, 9%. Somewhat. Those are the games I think City would be better off with Alvarez. When teams are, you're playing better defensive teams. I think that's when Alvarez is more suited. Darwin Núñez, 6%. Yeah. Kai Havertz, 5%. Kai Havertz scored the winning goal in the Champions League final. Gabriel Jesus, 5%. That's fair. Bukayo Saka, 3%. And Luis Diaz, 2%. I think it's a little harsh on Rashford. I would include him in the list, and I would include Raheem, because I don't think they play at their best, but I think they've got decent enough records. But certainly not 40% for Rashford. I think that's really harsh. I can't wrap my head around that player of the season vote. I can't wrap my head around Declan Rice and Erling Haaland being the top 2. It's just baffling to me. But it is what it is. There's definitely a huge hint of English bias in the Declan Rice one. Like, Rodri has been far better than any of the 3 above him, as has Van Dijk. Van Dijk, for me, right now, I would go Van Dijk 1, Rodri 2, Foden 3. That would be my player of the year right now. And it's harsh on Arsenal. Odegaard would be 4th. And you could sell me on Odegaard over Foden because Rodri Foden splits the vote a little bit. So you could sell me on Odegaard 3rd. Martin Odegaard has been really, really good this year. And whenever Arsenal needs someone to pull them out of the shit, it's Martin Odegaard who does it. Time and time again. Right, we'll go to break. When we come back, news and gossip. See you after this. Right, welcome back. So, Rachel Daly has retired from international football. The 32-year-old who was part of the England side that won Euro 2022, won 84 caps for England, came off the bench for England in their 2-0 win over Ireland the other day, and says that that's that. She said she'd love to carry on playing forever, but that she's run her race. An immense international career, part of a team that made history. She has earned all the plaudits she has gotten. And she should enjoy the rest of her club career without the strain in her body. Luke Fleurs, the South African footballer who was murdered, 6 people have been arrested in connection with his death. He was shot dead in a carjacking at a petrol station in Johannesburg last week. And 6 people have been arrested. Suspects are part of a syndicate that is responsible for carjackings, and investigators are actively searching for more suspects. Rodri has said he needs a rest. Rodri says he is planning to take a break during the season run-in as the club chase a second successive treble. That is not good news for Manchester City. City have not lost in 66 games with Rodri in the team. They are a shell of themselves without him. They have lost all 4 domestic games that he has missed this season. Crazy. He's played 3,500 minutes, 23rd most of any player in Europe's top 5 leagues. Only 3 players have made more starts, and 2 of those are goalkeepers. Potentially, Luton at the weekend could be a game to rest him in. You're still in the FA Cup, so maybe you can rest him there, but it is a risk. Stuart Dallas has been forced to retire after 2 years out with injuries. I must now accept the fact that my knee suffered irreparable damage and I will not be returning to play professional football. Sad news. You never like to see any player being forced to retire due to an injury. He sustained that injury 2 years ago this month in a game against Manchester City. He's had himself a good career. I think he's the type of player that can go into the coaching ranks and pass on what he learned in his career, good habits and such, to young players. Came through at Cole United, then played for Crusaders, moved to Brentford in 2012, had a short loan with Northampton, joined Leeds in 2015 and was a vital part of the Leeds squad that was promoted into the Premier League. Played here, there, and absolutely everywhere. It was a horrendous injury at the time, and unfortunately, he has never been able to recover from it. Could play anywhere: centre midfield, right back, left back, out wide, could play off the striker. A good player. That is pretty much all the news for today, unfortunately. So let's do the gossip and get ourselves out of here for today. Tottenham are monitoring Athletic Bilbao's Nico Williams, who has a 43 million release clause in his contract, according to the Telegraph. Williams could stay for another season at Athletic Bilbao before Barcelona tried to sign him in 2025, says Sport, which is a Barcelona fanzine. Joelinton is close to signing a new contract, according to the Telegraph. It's Luke Edwards, so he'll have been told that by his Saudi paymasters. France defender Rafael Varane and Brazilian midfielder Casemiro are expected to head the list of players Manchester United offload this summer. Paris Saint-Germain and Barcelona are interested in Luis Diaz. Barcelona don't have the money, but PSG certainly do. Chelsea could sell 11 players this summer. This is what I mean by they could fund their summer spending. Now, they'll still fracture, and by fracture, I mean absolutely obliterate the profit and sustainability rules the last couple of years. But look, they've done it. They might as well just carry on, take the points deduction, and just have your team ready to go the following season. Finish it this summer. Next season, do as well as you can. You might get hit with a points deduction. You probably will get hit with a points deduction. And then just go hell for leather the following year. Everybody will have had that full year to settle in. Your squad will be developed. You'll be in a great position. Manchester United's Mason Greenwood is one of Juventus's targets for summer. Now, him they might get some money for. I'll be hugely disappointed if anyone spends money on him. Manchester City are interested in Pedro Neto, but face competition from clubs in Saudi Arabia. I don't think he would move to Saudi Arabia, but I could be wrong. Crystal Palace and Fulham are looking into a move for Union Berlin's Danilo Doki, 25-year-old Dutch defender, plays centre-back, big, powerful unit. Could see him at Fulham for sure. Real Madrid and Brazil forward Rodrigo says he turned down a move to Liverpool. No, he didn't. The club put the kibosh on it. It was Santos blocked that. It had been agreed and Santos changed their mind. He didn't block it. Nonsense. Arsenal will compete with Manchester United to sign João Gomes this summer. He would make sense as that central midfielder for United with a defensive midfielder. It doesn't really make sense for. I mean, it'd be a squad player for Arsenal, I think. So he could make sense in that regard. Liverpool are interested in Jeremy Frimpong, meaning Trent Alexander-Arnold could move into midfield. No. Just no. I mean, if Trent leaves, Frimpong becomes the automatic target, I think. But there's absolutely no way Trent is moving into midfield under Amorim. Just nonsense. And it's Peter O'Rourke, so it's definitely garbage that he's just made up. Manchester United have not agreed a compensation fee with Newcastle for Dan Ashworth and may have to wait months before they can appoint him. I think they'd have to wait about a year to appoint him if they don't pay the compensation. I think it's 2025, like February or March 2025. So, I mean, if they want to do that, then fair enough. But, I mean, Jason Wilcox could act as sporting director, which is probably going to be his role, and your man will be above him, but still. It's just not the way to run a football club. Right, folks, that's me for today. I will see you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.